Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the M3 Market Update. My name is Melody Wright, and I do these videos to help you put in context all of the news that you're getting out there about the housing and commercial real estate markets. There's a lot of narrative out there, and there's a lot going on, as I like to say each week. So each week or every 10 days, although I will tell you I'm starting to get caught up. So I think that by next week we'll be in a nice weekly pattern here. So thanks for bearing with me. So welcome back, everybody. It's a crazy time right now. There is so much news coming at all of us, from across the pond, here in the US. It's a little overwhelming, as well as it's kind of that change in seasons where it's getting colder, it's gloomier. So I think that also can impact us as well as we try to take in all this news. So I'm here to try and keep us grounded, and also to give everybody just a little bit of hope that I do believe, the housing market is going to correct. And so what this show tries to do is kind of show you the path so that you can be prepared to take advantage of an opportunity, especially, trying to buy your first home and things like that. So what I would say to everybody is, hold on. And always you can reach out to me on Twitter here, etc. And I'll do my best to kind of get back to you about your particular situation. I know I keep promising this, but I really will do a deep dive video telling you how you can do some of the things I do in your local market, as it's unlikely I'm going to be able to track additional markets until I get a little bit more help. So welcome back. The big news this week, which, I got to be honest, it's just not even, this is why I'm helping you put it in context, was on home prices and how they've gone up again. Yeah, this makes perfect sense with what's happening in the market. A lot of what's able to transact are these higher price homes, or people that can afford this, which is not most of America. 80% of Americans or more really can't afford a home right now, not where the median price is, not where rates are, not where taxes and insurance are, not where HOA fees are. And so, affordability is severely constrained, but it's going to look like home prices are increasing by these indices. And I would encourage you, like if you are a data person, go in and look at how these things are kind of captured. So for instance, Case-Shiller is a repeat sell index. So that's only going to get existing homes. So that's not going to be your new builds, which we've seen are the ones being most aggressively sort of sold in the marketplace, with concessions that affect a price reduction. So what I would say to you is ignore the noise. We've already seen, like in the 70 cities I've tracked, I use Redfin. I look at all the month over month and year over year statistics. Sales are down, prices are coming down for all of those 70 cities. And, I can actually teach you how to do this as well if you reach out to me. But I think that we're kind of turning a corner. I think where I'm seeing it the most is in Florida, as that buyer-seller strike, I think, is about to heat up as inventory keeps hitting the market and desperate sellers need to go ahead and move that house because there's some other bill they have to pay. And this is primarily in the super prime or in the investor fraudster class, as I call them. Not all investors are fraudsters, don't get me wrong. So I shouldn't put them together. And I don't have anything against actually investing in the real estate market, but housing should not be a casino. So that fraudster class is having some struggles right now as kind of the game is up. They were able to go out and get, a refi, get on another property. And I'm talking about the people that bought multiple properties, not just one, although, definitely people are struggling that bought just one as well. So, solutions for those are going to be offloading those properties. So I believe we're going to start to see that accelerate here at the end of the year. Somebody tagged me on a post, thank you, earlier today about in Canada and how they've seen their inventory increase significantly from 2022. I think that, there's going to be a lot of surprise people when we start to see that inventory increase. In case you missed it, in my Substack last week, I linked an article from Newsweek that also talked about, all these vacant properties that our boomers own. They are going to start offloading them. And that really started, this article argues back in 2015, and I would tend to agree with that. And that's just going to accelerate as, boomers make choices about where they're going to put their money. And right now, based on cash flow, based on increased expenses, I think that they will make decisions, and many of them are reaching out to me telling me this, to offload those properties. So there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of data. There's probably a data point for any scenario that you think is true. And that's why I'm a believer in more data. I talk all the time that real estate is local until it's not. And what I mean by that is, absolutely you have to understand those local dynamics, but the national narrative drives a lot of what happens locally. But you do need to be aware of that local market. That's why I've chosen to track 70 cities. I'd love to track more. I just don't have the help right now, but some of you have reached out to me. I'm going to be doing a meeting next week with some of you who have graciously volunteered your time. And so we'll see what I'll be able to get done here in the next few weeks. So kind of excited to get some help, and thank you guys for reaching out. Okay, so the other big sort of news story over the last couple of weeks was foreclosures, and yeah, I don't know. It's clickbait in a lot of ways, but in other ways, it's important information. We need to understand where the consumer truly is, because every day we're being told that the consumer is really, really strong. And I would argue there's a certain segment of the population, a certain consumer, that's still doing just fine. I saw an interesting graph yesterday comparing kind of restaurant operator expectations. And a lot of those were going down, except for fine dining, because I think those guys are doing just fine. But 80% of Americans aren't doing just fine. So for a little while, because that top 20% has a lot of the money, there's a great study out there by the San Francisco Fed that everybody but that upper echelon has spent all those pandemic savings. So these guys are struggling, but your top 20% isn't. And so it can make things look better than they are. And really, my goal here is to make sure you're not caught by surprise. And so whether you agree with me or disagree with me about the path forward, I just want you to know as much information as you can before you make a decision, because there is a lot of nuance to the way this market works, and it's very different from the national narratives that you're hearing. So foreclosure, I happen to have managed default at the end of the last crisis. So I can tell you absolutely, yes, we're starting to see foreclosure tick up, which is just kind of shocking to me in general because of all of the COVID programs. I mean, I can't even describe how aggressive those programs were. An 18-month forbearance, a payment deferral where you could put those 18 months, that entire balance at the end of your loan. And so let's think back to 2005 and 2006 and all those second liens that got taken out, or home equity products. In a way, this is exactly what the payment deferral is, just nobody knows about the balances. Nobody. They're not being reported to credit. They're not being reported to the Fed. And so we have combined LTVs, or loan to values, out there that are much higher than what people are saying. So there's a lot that folks don't understand. And I would even tell you, people that tell you they're mortgage experts, well, they're experts in their field. And so one of the reasons I can give you such a rounded view, and I'm not saying I'm perfect and I know everything, I don't, but I have been involved in both origination and servicing, and managing processes and teams in both. And that is a very rare find in the industry, because most people either manage origination or they manage servicing, and the two shall never meet. I mean, I talk about this in my Substack this week, that I remember actual fights that would break out at the local pub at my old company around, just the differences in opinions from originators versus servicers. And I'll tell you, originators have a very short time horizon. they're with that customer for maybe 60 days, maybe 90 days. Servicers have that loan for the life of the loan, and the average is around 7 years. It goes up, it goes down. When we're in a low rate environment, that's going to go down because people are going to refi. But I would say that people that understand servicing have a much better view of the downstream implications from origination, because a lot of people, and I was just having this actual debate on Twitter, about FHA, and they're like, well, it's fine. You have mortgage insurance. You can file a claim. Well, I happen to manage a claims department, and I can tell you FHA, Fannie and Freddie are just like any other insurance provider you've ever worked with. Think about how much time you have to spend to get that claim paid. And it all looks great on paper, but somehow they find a nuance to screw you. And I can tell you, like mortgage insurance, so we'll put aside FHA mortgage insurance right now, but private mortgage insurance, they pay out about 3 to 5% of claims, where typical insurance claim payout is more around 80%. So these guys aren't going to be made whole. And there's nobody out there that can tell you a life of loan profitability for an FHA loan. Nobody tracks it that way, because it's more about liquidity and moving dollars around. So today I won't get into part 2 of the MBS discussion. I will really, really try to do that this weekend. And because there's just so much to talk about. But, that is what drives the market, mortgage-backed securities. And it's very much about moving money through the system, recirculating it. And when the music stops, it stops very suddenly. And, as we hear often, we'll see who was swimming naked. And it's already starting to happen all over the place. But for those of you who are, watch my show thinking about what can you do, I would say look at the non-bank originators very closely. They say a lot of stuff, but most of them were not around last time, and certainly not around at scale. And so anybody that has these FHA, VA loans on their books, they're going to come into liquidity challenges. So that's a little tip, not investment advice. I would say just look into them. But I think anybody that thinks that they're going to be just fine has another thing coming. Okay, so back to the foreclosures quickly. It is bizarre that we have any, and a lot of times the reason why we do have some could be because that property is vacant. It could be that the fraudster walked away. It could be, not a fraudster, but a borrower who simply just couldn't handle it anymore and walks away. And, when you get into default, there's a lot of embarrassment. There's a lot of human emotion about default because, the idea that you can't pay your obligation. This is why, we often can't even get what we call right party contact, where we can reach that borrower because they're just so embarrassed. So, as I've argued with you guys before in my Substack, housing is very, very emotional. I went out trick-or-treating this past week, and, as I was walking down the street, I'm here in Johnson City. There's this area called the Tree Streets. It's the older homes, bigger homes, beautiful. But as we were walking, you could just hear little kids say things like, Daddy, can we live in this house? Can we get this house? And then you hear, even the people that I was walking with, the only conversation was about housing and how unaffordable housing was as they were looking at these homes. But I'll tell you that you could see, even in Johnson City, Tennessee, where, there's a draw for certain things, but not a need for as many Airbnbs that are here now. I'd say 2 out of 3 of these homes were vacant or in some process of flipping. So this has infected all of America. And I think you guys know, I track the listings, so I have the hard data behind it. But I want everyone to understand, this has been a kind of national mentality. And it's all around, on the one hand, wanting passive income. But why do they want that passive income? Because everybody wants a certain quality of life. And then it's around, these folks that just want a home. They just want a home. And they don't, and I can tell you, many people in Johnson City, this is a very low income area. They don't have a 3 bedroom. They don't have, your regular single family homes. They're living in trailers, etc. Meanwhile, we have a ton of second home ownership here. Now, I'm a fan of capitalism, don't get me wrong, but I also don't think we're living in capitalism right now. Most of our mortgage market is controlled by the government, 95%. So, facts. It's not about ideas. It's really about the facts of the situation right now. And the facts are that most people cannot find an affordable place to live. And that's a problem. It's a problem for, the people that are overextended. And it's a problem for people that do want to invest in real estate and make that dream of home ownership possible. So lots of problems, no black and white, lots of gray. But I can tell you that housing is very emotional, and these foreclosures are going to continue to tick up, but they aren't going to do it at a super fast pace. What I talk about in the Substack this week is all about what changed after the GFC, and how they extended the timeline. And quite honestly, it's not an apples to apples comparison to look at foreclosures today versus, say, 2006, because today you have to wait 120 days nationally. That's a national requirement before you can refer that loan to foreclosure. Even if your note actually says that you can breach that loan at day 45 and collect all due and owing, no one can do that anymore. They have to wait till day 120. So you're not going to have apples to apples comparison. The timeline has been elongated. So anyway, these are all the types of nuances that there is no perfect way to look at this. There's no little gift wrap, little box that you can, open to understand housing. It's a very complicated, massive engine for our economy, but it's so important to understand, because if you don't understand housing and cars as well, and I'm a big fan of Dr. Lacey Hunt, and was introduced to him by Danielle DiMartino Booth. But cars and homes drive our economy, and both are unaffordable right now. So what happens when all of your 20% have all the cars they really want? Because why would they pay, a ton in insurance if they're down in Florida, for multiple cars? I mean, most rich people I know are actually, very cheap. And that's why they're rich, because they make smart money decisions. Of course, there's always the exceptions, but really people who are wealthy make better. Typically, they're more financially aware, like educated, and they understand, or they can actually pay people that understand it, to help them around many of these situations a normal everyday investor can't get around, or a homeowner. Okay, so main message on foreclosures: we are definitely going to see them increase. It's going to take some time. It won't be apples to apples comparison to 2006, 7, 8, because of those the increase in the timelines. And if we stay on this current path, and there's no other credit event or exogenous event, I believe we'll probably see material delinquency by June of 2024. But if we go to war, who knows? All kinds of fiscal stimulus could come in. The modifications that are out there right now aren't going to help everybody, and both FHA and VA are working on new updated modifications, and nor did they help everybody last time. In the Substack this week, I also linked to a really great paper about the efficacy of the Treasury HAMP program last time. So encourage everybody to read that. Okay, so sorry for the delay again, and I'll stop apologizing, but I hope to be on track by next week. This week, we're starting to just see some really interesting things, and it's kind of exciting for me, and because I'm a data geek, I in many ways, what's about to happen, it is very upsetting, But on the other hand, it's a complicated picture because, I do want people to be able to own a home. And I'm also a data geek. So it's fun when, sort of the patterns start to change and we reach that inflection point. Okay, so this week I put in a new metric, which is going to be the foreclosures, the top 10 cities with foreclosures according to RealtyTrac. I've sent a question asking them about how they get their pre-foreclosure number. If they haven't responded yet, but if they do it correctly, it would be by taking public record for a notice of default. If it's a judicial state, they would probably be looking at complaint filing. So hoping to hear from them, but this includes pre-foreclosure, auction, and REO. Okay, so top 10. Number 1 is Philadelphia with over 6,000 foreclosures. Miami, number 2 at 3,833. This is very counter to all the narrative around Miami. Westchester County, 3,670. It's a big county, but it's also in the top 10 for the highest average daily rate in 2022. So this area was very sought after by short-term rental. Chicago at 3,355. Las Vegas at 2,180. Rochester at 2,082. Cleveland at 1,779. This is also, kind of in contradiction to the narrative about the Midwest we hear out there. So yes, real estate's local, absolutely, but it's also, it's also impacted by these national narratives. And what we're seeing here is kind of the idea that many are saying the Midwest is a place to hide, but there's already distress there. And if you have distress there, like locally, then that's going to impact home prices as well. And so you can't just say, oh, that's a great place to move. You got to think about what's actually going on there as well. Pittsburgh at 1,570. Orlando, 1,508. Again, kind of counter to the narrative. Houston at 1,209. Houston, San Antonio, these areas are going to be in a lot of trouble. I'm seeing some very concerning things there. Okay, so quickly for listings for sale, I would say we had a very slight increase, or almost flat week over week. And again, week over week, there's a lot of movement in there. That's why we look at month over month, year over year. But I've also noticed that tends to happen at the end of the month. But compared to the average, we were up 5.31% and 20% compared to January. So this is for 70 cities, guys. We're definitely seeing inventory ticking up. But top cities' largest percent increase in inventory week over week, and this is for October 22nd through the 29th. Brattleboro at number 1, 6.9%. Portsmouth at 4.6%. Encinitas at 2.89%. Cape May at 2.38%. And New York at 1.75%. New York could potentially be, because of that, that new ban that we're seeing in for short-term rental. But we'll, keep our eyes on this. Okay, so top cities with largest percent increase in inventory for listings for sale compared to 16-week average. Bakersfield at 41.9%. Interesting. You're seeing Bakersfield at top in foreclosure as well. So something going down there, definitely. Portsmouth at 22.85%. Seattle at 14.72%. Palm Springs at 14.57%. And Cape May at 14.44%. Now, it's funny, somebody was arguing with me on Twitter last week about luxury being just fine. Guys, I see so much luxury. When I actually look every week at these cities to see what are the top, homes that are listed. And a lot of them are luxury, and a lot of it is sitting and not moving at all. So the idea that there's absolutely no stress in the super prime, I don't believe that for a second. And I think that as we start to see things, another thing I posted this week was on multifamily. We're starting to see a lot of distress there, from limited partners hearing that the investment they thought they were going to get some return on is going up in smoke. And so as things like that happen, if I own multiple properties, I'm going to think about, oh my goodness, I need to ride this out. I probably need to list one of those for sale. So the super prime are getting hit. And, so it's kind of happening from the top, happening from the bottom. Okay, so Top City's largest percent increase in inventory or listings for sale from start. This was January, and this is where we kind of talk about our top 10 each week. And for the longest time, for those of you that are new, the top 10 was actually it was the same 10 cities. We're starting to see a lot of movement in that top 10. And Austin got kicked out this week, which is, in my opinion, huge because they've had a ton of inventory increases there. But it's starting to show you that the same things that were kind of impacting Austin are going to start to impact these other cities as well. So number one, San Francisco at 102%, San Ramon at 102%, and this is from the start. Bakersfield at 84.53%, Coeur d'Alene at 72.8%, Denver at 67.18%. I'll be out in Denver in the second week of November, I think. I'll make an announcement of that. I'm thinking of doing maybe a meetup out there. Seattle at 61%, which is now Seattle's back in the top 10. They were pushed out last week. San Jose at 50%, Salt Lake City at 50%, Galveston at 47.6%. They're back in the top 10 after being kicked out. And then Boston at 47.04%. And honorable mention here, Dallas at 45.58%. And then that Austin number was 44.76%, if you were curious. Okay, top cities with highest percent list increase of single family rental listings. Okay, so listings for rent were down less than a percentage week over week, but compared to the 16-week average, we're up 6.50%. So I believe they might have that same kind of where they kind of move around at the end of the month, but we'll check it out and see. Still, listings for rent are going up. Portsmouth at 12%, Sevierville at 9.52%, San Ramon at 6.38%, Destin at 5.97%, and then Rosemary Beach at 3.85%. Rosemary Beach is all over the place. Top cities with highest percent of increase of single family rental listings to the 16-week average. So this can, kind of get rid of that weekly noise. Cape May at 134%. Again, small numbers, so the percentages look good. Rosemary Beach at 72.95%, Sevierville at 42.27%, and Galveston at 34%, and Destin at 19.66%. And again, that's increases in long-term rental listings. Okay, so quickly moving on to short-term rentals. For Airbnb, VRBO sort of short-term rental listings, here's the top 5 decreases week over week, but I'm going to give you the week over week percentage, the month over month percentage, and then the year over year percentage. Okay, so number one, Rosemary Beach. Again, they're all over the place. Negative 55.65% week over week, negative 5.62% month over month, and negative 3.92% year over year. And these are listings for short-term rental, meaning that they are, sorry, that was for the average daily rate. So this is the average daily rate. Oh boy, going too fast. So this is the decrease in average daily rate. And so you can see that, yes, week over week, not meaningful, but month over month and year over year, we're starting to see those decreases. So it's not just a seasonal thing. The year over year is decreasing as well. Okay, Destin at negative 45.37% month over month, a negative 8.72%, and year over year, negative 12.69%. Chicago, negative 39%. Week over week, negative 4.84% month over month, and negative 11.17% year over year. San Francisco, negative 32.89% week over week, actually up 1.21% month over month. This could be a seasonal football, who knows? And then year over year, down like less than a percent. Portsmouth, down 31.94%. month over month up a tiny bit at 0.7%, and then year over year up at 2.17%. Again, so it's going to be for Airbnb specifically, it's the tourism industry. It's what's going on in these cities that could be drawing people. And, cities like Chicago will probably do a little bit better in general because there's a lot of reasons to go to Chicago. Okay, finally with commercial real estate, what? Oh boy. So, we just got that announcement from the White House that, they're going to target $45 billion to do commercial real estate conversions. And guys, I'm shaking my head because we've seen so many studies that these are very hard to do. They don't work well. And so, is this a real solution? It seems to me to be just a kind of backdoor bailout that'll be accessible to the government's favorite partners, which could be, who, like, right, one of their favorite partners, especially when it comes to distressed assets, is BlackRock. Now, when it comes to which developers will do that, that's some of the things I want to explore because I honestly believe that we are going to do a massive pivot to affordable housing and all these $400,000 homes to 600,000 to, 3 million. The government's going to get involved in helping to make those affordable one way or the other. And so, here's an early program, but I would say stay tuned as well because I think there's going to be a fight over a lot of these, proposed legislation. And I think that the HUD bill in particular, which has about 10 billion for down payment assistance, is going to be contentious, but stay tuned on that. But when it comes to commercial real estate, I feel like we've been talking about that. We've been talking about it for over a year, and I think people in the industry have been talking about it for years. But we are going to be talking about it for a very, very long time because if, with the WeWork bankruptcy, this could really start accelerating things because, as the trustee in that bankruptcy needs to offload certain assets, that trustee is going to do it in a fair manner for all parties. But they likely will need to move that stuff. And, so it'll be very interesting. We might start getting actual true price discovery from WeWork. Okay, that was a lot of words, a lot of talking. Sorry, for kind of all the stats, etc. As I was saying, hoping to work with a couple people to try and improve the quality of this, but it will be incremental again. So guys, a lot going on. Please reach out to me. I probably will be spending a little more time, away from Twitter, trying to kind of build out some more data, some more modeling, some more kind of deep dives into these cities to give people a true picture of what's going on. So if I don't get back to you right away, please bear with me. I'll do my best. And I would say reach out to me here on YouTube. I will, it's easier for me to kind of give you the email address so you can get in touch with me here on this platform because my DMs are completely crazy right now. So, but if you just want to at me on Twitter, it's M3_Melody, MELODY. My Substack, M3 Melody Substack, and YouTube at M3_Melody, and then on LinkedIn, Melody Wright. So, guys, whatever you do, just don't listen, to the loudest voice out there. Just take these things in context. Reach out, and I will try to give you a resource if I can't help you directly. But this is the time when people make mistakes that could impact the rest of their lives. And so if you don't have to make a decision right now, I would encourage you to just hold on. If you do have to make a decision, understand that if you're needing to sell, like really needing to sell, you might want to be a little bit aggressive because there's more inventory coming. If you're looking to buy, there are some negotiation. You have the upper hand from a negotiation perspective. And if you're looking to rent, you also have the upper hand if you are armed with the facts. And I can help try and teach you how to arm yourself. So, okay. Thanks again for joining, and I look forward to talking to you guys again, hopefully this weekend and next week for sure. But thanks again, guys, and have a great day. Thank you.